Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you and a logical week ahead. So, this is the beginning of a new week. Of course, with the festivities over, now you can give a little more time to your reading as well as working on your vocabulary. I hope you are able to do this because time flies and you never know when you will come up against October, November. And of course, there are more festivities in line. So it's better you start with the reading from now itself, right? So let's see what we have for the editorial today. That is March 13th. The first editorial that we'll be taking is Canberra Calling. As always, we'll be discussing the editorial. Alongside, we'll be coming up with the main points, how to extract the main points, and then in the end, we'll be coming up with the discussion of the vocabulary there. Though we do not have many new words today, but yes, you will be able to recall a few words. And of course, for many who have not yet started listening to all this, will find that all are new words. So the more you read, the more you will be able to get new words, and of course, then make them familiar also to you. So, the fourth visit of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has helped consolidate Australia's position in the A list of India's valued partners. Thanks to the sustained efforts of the political leadership in both the capitals in recent years, the long standing synergies between the two nations are now being translated into concrete outcomes in the political, economic, and the security domains. Right? So, the point here is long standing synergies between the two nations. The moment the author says are now being translated, right, इसका मतलब long standing था, कब से synergized थे वो दोनों nations, that is India as well and Australia. Now these things are being translated into concrete outcomes. Concrete यानी कुछ ठोस, ठीक है? इसका मतलब कि कब से ही इनका दोनों का लिंक था, लेकिन अब जाकर कुछ नया, कुछ concrete, something solid is visible in the form of political, economic, and security domains. Now, during the Cold War, the occasional efforts at overcoming the political divergences in the worldviews of Delhi and Canberra did not succeed. Occasional efforts, say, and they did not succeed because there was little economic cooperation between the two countries. And we have done this word little many a times. So, little means not much, and a little means at least some. एटलीस्ट सम का मतलब एक पॉजिटिव यूसेज है और लिटिल का मतलब एक नेगेटिव कोनोटेशन होता है और लिटिल एक पॉजिटिव कोनोटेशन होता है राइट and this is what we have discussed many times. So if you remember this, that means now this part of the paragraph is giving you the reasoning of why it took these two countries such a long time in coming up with something concrete, because occasional efforts were made. They did not succeed because there was not much economic cooperation. So the lack of economic cooperation or the absence of economic cooperation, absence नहीं बोल सकेंगे क्योंकि lack बोलेंगे कि जितनी जरूरत थी उससे कम था economic cooperation between the two countries. It was only after India's economic liberalization that followed soon after the Cold War came to an end that the complementarity between India's economic growth and Australia's rich natural resources came into view. It was only after. ठीक है, हमें ऐसे वर्ड्स पे फोकस करना इसलिए जरूरी होता है because these words are going to help you in understanding the paragraph, even if it is a small one, but when the questions that we get are on critical reasoning. ठीक है, सो क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग सेक्शन करने के लिए जो तुम्हें जरूरी होता है वो इन चीजों पे फोकस करना होगा टू अंडरस्टैंड द attitude of the author, in the sense that what is he conveying there. So he said that, see, there was little economic cooperation between the two countries, and only after India's economic liberalization were these two countries able to come up with something concrete. And they came to know about the rich resources of Australia, and hence they worked in this direction. Yet, It took nearly 3 decades for policies to catch up with new possibilities. That means तभी इसने कहा था ये long standing synergies. ठीक है, तो 30 साल लग गए इन्हें कुछ concrete लाने में. Now, the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement that opened the door for freer commerce between the two nations came into force at the end of 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Albanese are pushing for their trade bureaucracies to quickly complete the negotiations on a comprehensive economic partnership agreement that will further integrate the two economies. Now they are talking about integration. And now, if you understand this part of the paragraph, it said that there was a long standing synergies between the two countries, but it could not materialize in a very effective way what can you say, something concrete way. It could not materialize. So, and why and how did it do? So, it was only after India's economic liberalization that they became aware of the rich resources of the country of Australia. And then it took them 30 years, again, a very long time, to come up with these policies, the change in the policies. Now, I'm focusing again on this word. It took nearly 3 decades for policies to catch up. Right. Now it took nearly 3 decades, मतलब 30 years is a very long time. ऐसे पैसेज पर इस पार्ट पर एक क्वेश्चन आराम से बन सकता है कि what can be concluded, what can be inferred, what was assumed. Any kind of a question, but a CR based question can come from this part of the paragraph. But what I am trying to tell you here is that if you focus on the basics of the language, you'll be able to crack a CR passage also very easily. Let's come to the next now. Meanwhile, the deterioration of regional security environment marked by the rise of an increasingly assertive Beijing has nudged Delhi and Canberra closer together in deepening their bilateral security cooperation as well as join hands in such mini-lateral institutions such as Quadrilateral Forum as well as regional multilateral forums such as the Indian Ocean Rim Association and the East Asia Summit. Now, हमें मिनी लैटरल समझ में आ जाता है, मल्टी लैटरल समझ में आ जाता है, इंक्रीजिंगली असर्टिव बीजिंग. ठीक है, इसका मतलब अब धीरे धीरे रीजनल सिक्योरिटी एनवायरनमेंट डिटेरियोरेट होती जा रही है. मीनवाइल, how is it decreasing? Because Beijing is becoming more assertive. Beijing धीरे धीरे strong होता जा रहा है. So this is pushing. Nudge करना मतलब ऐसे किसी को prod करना या उसे धक्का देना हल्का सा, उसे nudging कहते हैं. So Beijing, it is increasing in its dominance, you can say. This fact is pushing the two countries, India and Australia, towards each other. तो इन दोनों का ग्रुप बनता जा रहा है and deepening their bilateral security cooperation as well as joining hands in minilateral institution, multilateral forums. ठीक है, तो चाइना का अपवर्ड आना और इंडिया और ऑस्ट्रेलिया का एक साथ होना, this is what the paragraph says. While Delhi and Canberra can't accept Beijing's efforts to exercise hegemony over Asia and the Indo-Pacific, they are conscious that China is here to stay as a major force and are eager to develop a reasonable and mutually beneficial relationship with Beijing. Right. So they know that they can't do harm, or they can't harm China in that manner. If China is increasing, improving, growing stronger, right? So what can India and Australia do together will be that they know that it is a strong force, a major force, and India plus Australia is eager to develop a reasonable and mutually beneficial relationship with China. So neither Modi nor Albanese want to join a containment ring against China. Contain करना मतलब किसी को रोकना. तो ये ऐसा ओपनली आके बिल्कुल उसको रोकना नहीं चाहते कि एकदम अगेंस्ट हो जाएं. उन्हें लॉजिक लगा के रीजनेबली बेनिफिशियल, म्यूचुअली बेनिफिशियल बोलते हैं ना, वैसी रिलेशनशिप कुछ लेनी है, right? So neither Australia nor India wants to join a containment ring against China, but are determined to promote a stable regional security architecture in the Indo पैसिफिक, ये करना वो चाहते हैं और ओपनली चाइना के खिलाफ जाना नहीं चाहते हैं, उसे कंटेन करना नहीं, बट दे नो दैट चाइना इज गोइंग टू स्टे हियर एज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग पावर. Now, the convergences on the economic and security front have been reinforced by the rapidly growing size of the Indian diaspora in Australia. At nearly a million, the Indian origin population is now about 3% of the total inhabitants of Australia. The flows of Indian, it's about 3%. Now, flows of Indian technical talent and skilled labor into Australia are likely to grow further. अभी तो सिर्फ 3% है, उससे ज्यादा होने वाले हैं. They are likely to grow further in the years ahead. But this living bridge would mean joining India to Australia. यहाँ से लोग आते जाते हैं ना इतने, तो ये living bridge हो गया. This living bridge also generates new problems. PM Modi flagged the recent vandalization of Indian temples in Australia by Khalistani groups with Albanese. फ्लैग का मतलब होता है उसको फोकस किया, उससे बात की, इन लोगों की, खालिस्तानी ग्रुप्स ने इंडियन हिंदू टेम्पल्स को नुकसान पहुंचाया. ठीक है, इसकी बात मोदी जी ने एल्बनीज मतलब ऑस्ट्रेलिया के प्राइम मिनिस्टर से की. So the Australian Prime Minister has underlined Canberra's commitment to crack down on such attacks कि ऐसा नहीं होने देंगे आगे. While Delhi is right in raising the issue with Canberra, it should also reflect on one important fact. The sharpening religious polarization within India is dividing our diaspora everywhere. Now, he says Delhi is right in raising this issue. मतलब मोदी जी ने सही बात की, ये इशू मेंशन करके कैनबरा प्राइम मिनिस्टर से, मतलब ऑस्ट्रेलियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर से. Alongside, he also says that see what is going on, what is happening. This is a fact. Whatever happens in the major country, right? It is definitely going to affect the country where the Indians are. And Australia is a country where there's a huge population of the Indian, right? So sharpening religious polarization within India is dividing a diaspora everywhere, including in Australia. So Delhi then has much responsibility in limiting the divide at home and preventing hate crimes that have massive external impact. So this is one small suggestion or a warning sort of. Warning तो नहीं बोल सकते, लेकिन एक सजेशन जो कि बताएंगे कि जो कि ऑथर बोलते हैं कि देखो ऐसा प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है. ठीक है. So, Delhi then has responsibility in limiting the divide at home, preventing hate crimes that have massive external impact. So, reading these two paragraphs, we get to know one thing as a main idea that see these these two prime ministers have met. Right? There was a combination or an agreement that could have taken place long back, but then it did not, and it was like consolidated when, say, after 30 years, it has actually materialized. Okay, and why so and how so? Because of liberalization, they became aware of the rich resources of the other country, and now after such a long time, this has taken place. Coming to the previous paragraph here, now the common, you can't say a common enemy also, right? Now they know that China in its own area is actually raising its head now. It's a major force, cannot be denied. Right? So what to do, what can India and Australia together can do is that they can come up with a mutually beneficial relationship where China is there because the people do not want to इन्होंने क्या यूज किया था, they don't want to, they are conscious that China is here to stay as a major force. Okay, neither Modi nor Albanese want to join a containment ring. That is what they had said. That we don't want to contain China, but we can come up with mutually beneficial relation. Right? And then in the last part of the passage, it says that what did Prime Minister Modi mention to the Australian Prime Minister was this. The vandalization, ये रहा, vandalization of the Indian temples, Australia, by Khalistani groups. And what have these people said? Australians, and then what the author said. The Australian Prime Minister underlined that, okay, fine, he will come up with a crackdown on such attacks. And what did the author say on his own? That this sharpening religious polarization within India is dividing a diaspora everywhere, including in Australia. So Delhi then has responsibility in limiting the divide at home. So first take care of the home. Why? Because it is having repercussions in the other countries away from the mainland also, right? So if you can sum it up in your mind also, this is going to help you. Coming to the main idea that we have just discussed, one, synergies between India and Australia are now being translated. The same context is being followed in the main idea also, is now being translated into concrete outcomes in political, economic and security domains. ठीक है कि अब जाके ये हो रहा है, तो that was the main point. The rest was explanation. So we have the vocabulary now. Yeah, a few words. Deterioration. हमने पढ़ा है deterioration of rocks है या किसी भी चीज का. We usually read it in geography where we are talking about the wear and tear. Now, if it is a wear and tear, that means the condition is worsening. We usually use this word deteriorated with health. His health has deteriorated or had deteriorated, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. So weakening, worsening, declining, and descent. So everything with a downward arrow, right? Then nudged, as I had given earlier, nudged is to prod somebody. Prod मतलब उसे से ऐसे झटका देना, थोड़ा सा टच करना कि चल आगे बढ़ो, आगे चलो, ऐसा वाला. तो उसे एल्बोड कहते हैं. ठीक है, ऐसे तुमने किया भी होगा. जोल्ट का मतलब होता है थोड़ा सा धक्का लगाना, लेकिन a small push will be the simplest word here. A slight push is called a nudge. When somebody just elbows you and tells you to shift a little in that manner. Hegemony is dominion, authority, control, being the best. ये hegemony होता है. The Western Airlines or the American Airlines enjoys the hegemony in the aviation sector. ये भी कर सकते हैं हम. फ्लैग्ड हमने बहुत बार कर लिया है. अब तो मतलब नेक्स्ट टाइम आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू यूज दिस वर्ड अगेन. सो लेबल्ड हाईलाइटेड है, बट नाउ आई एम कमिंग अप विद अनदर वर्ड दैट इज डॉकेटेड. ठीक है, तो ऐसा सोचो यहाँ पे डीओसी एज ए रूट वर्ड है, तो डॉक्यूमेंट होता है where you would list down many things or you would write many things. So it is a document, or documentary जैसा होता है कि किसी एक टॉपिक के बारे में, किसी एक चीज के बारे में बहुत कुछ बता देना, उसे डॉक्यूमेंट्री कहेंगे. ठीक है, so flagged will be where you are highlighting all those things and therefore that is called a documentary. So say document में रखना is docketed, right? So this becomes a verb formation. Polarization, of course you can understand it with poles. एक नॉर्थ पोल होता है, एक साउथ पोल होता है. अच्छा मैंने ऐसे में बना दिया ईस्ट वेस्ट में, अदरवाइज आप ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, नॉर्थ पोल और ये साउथ पोल. So wherever they are in two different directions, so that is called polarization. Now, if you can understand this word with poles, you can understand this word divergence, right? Schism and division. The two groups going in different directions. That is polarization. And then diaspora. Diaspora is scattering of so many things. So dispersion हमारे पास एक word है. Movement, displacement and migration. ठीक है, माइग्रेशन मूवमेंट के हिसाब से आ जाता है, डिस्पर्शन स्कैटर करने के हिसाब से आ सकता है. तो डायस्पोरा क्या हुआ कि कितने लोग, किस तरीके के लोग हमारे कंट्री में मिक्सअप हैं, एंड द सेम मिक्सअप वुड बी देयर, मे बी a similar mix-up would be there in the other countries also. So that is the Indian diaspora or the external one. So here you can understand with the scattering of the people. So that's all for today. And I hope you will be reading more articles in the coming fortnight. 15 days. I said that day also, I'm giving you 15 days now to improve in your reading, coming up with various genres where you're reading different articles. So, apart from this editorial, kindly start reading various articles also. I'll soon come up with a discussion of a few random passages, not necessarily the editorial, but a random passage through which you can actually get many good words also, and you can understand the context also, right? So that's all for today, and have a very logical week ahead. Today is just Monday, so all the best for the week. Thank you.